Hello everyone, welcome to Lukman IAS. So today we are going to start a new initiative, and in this initiative we are going to discuss the previous year questions of UPSC prelims examination. So let us start the first session, and today we are going to start the session with Indian polity. Okay, so in this session I'm going to discuss 5 questions of UPSC prelims examination. I'm going to analyze the answers of these 5 questions, and so through these questions we are going to cover these topics: the Parliament of India, the government schemes, fundamental rights, separation of power, and acts or legislations of the government. So let us quickly move to the first topic. The first question is about that Rajya Sabha has equal powers with Lok Sabha in. Options are A. Matters of creating new All India services. Option B. Amending the constitution. Option C. Removal of the government. Option D. Making cut motions. Okay. So as you know that the Parliament of India consists of 3 important parts. The one and foremost part is the President of India. The President of India is an integral part of the Constitution, or like he is the integral part of the Parliament of India. Okay, so President of India is an integral part of the Parliament of India. Along with the President, we have the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. Okay, so Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha are given powers, and in some cases the Rajya Sabha has equal powers as that of Lok Sabha, and in some cases the Rajya Sabha has special powers that are more as compared to the Lok Sabha, and in other cases the Lok Sabha has more powers as compared to Rajya Sabha. Okay, so this question is about the comparison of power of Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha. Okay, so as I already said, like there are cases where Rajya Sabha has greater power as compared to Lok Sabha. There are cases where Rajya Sabha has equal powers as that of Lok Sabha, and there are cases where Rajya Sabha has lesser power as compared to Lok Sabha. Okay, so let us understand each option one by one. The first option says that the matter of creating all India services. Okay, so when it comes to creating all India services, Article 312 of the Constitution of India gives special power to the Rajya Sabha. Okay, so this first article is a specific reference where Rajya Sabha has greater power as compared to Lok Sabha, because Rajya Sabha has the power in matters of creating all India services. So this option is not correct. Let us talk about other areas where Rajya Sabha has more power as compared to Lok Sabha. We do have an article which is Article 249 of the Constitution of India. The Article 249 of the Constitution of India empowers the Rajya Sabha to legislate on state subjects. It simply means under Article 249, the Parliament of India can legislate on a state subject. So in this respect also Rajya Sabha has more powers as compared to Lok Sabha. Then when it comes to Article 352 of the Constitution of India, so Rajya Sabha has been given more power to endorse the emergency for a limited period till the time that Lok Sabha is not in session. Okay, so Article 312, Article 249, Article 352 talks about those special powers where Rajya Sabha has more power as compared to Lok Sabha. Then let us talk about the second option, which is amending the constitution. The second option is an example where Rajya Sabha has equal power as that of Lok Sabha. Why it is the case? Because when it comes to amending the constitution of India, you know any bill can be passed in either house of the parliament. Means like it can be passed in Lok Sabha, then it will go to the Rajya Sabha, then in Rajya Sabha also it has to separately pass with a special majority. Okay, so for passing a constitutional amendment bill or for amending the constitution, okay, Rajya Sabha has been given equal power as that of Lok Sabha. And there is no provision in the Constitution of India that allows for sitting sitting or holding of a joint session. Okay, so joint session is not allowed in the cases of amendment of the Constitution. So option B is the correct option for this question. And apart from this, let us also talk about other areas where Rajya Sabha has, equal power as that of Lok Sabha. Okay. So there are six such cases. Like there may be other cases also. I'm going to discuss about six specific cases. In one case, when it comes to election and impeachment of the president of India, Rajya Sabha has equal power as that of Lok Sabha. And in the second case, when it comes to election of the vice president of India, Rajya Sabha has equal power that of Lok Sabha. And when it comes to amending the constitution of India, Rajya Sabha has equal power as that of Lok Sabha. And also, like in case of approving the proclamation of emergency, Rajya Sabha has equal power as that of Lok Sabha. And then proclamation regarding the failure of constitutional machinery. Okay, in this case also Rajya Sabha has equal power as that of Lok Sabha. And apart from this, proclamation related to financial emergency. In this case also Rajya Sabha has equal power as that of Lok Sabha. Okay, so these are six specific cases where Rajya Sabha has equal power as that of Lok Sabha. Okay, and apart from this, if we talk about options C and D, when it comes to removal of the government, okay, so the thing is, no confidence motion has to be passed. No confidence motion has to be passed. And no confidence motion is, is a specific thing that is where the Lok Sabha has the power. Okay. So removal of the government means no confidence motion to be passed in the Lok Sabha. This is one thing. Apart from this, we can articulate in a different manner as well. Because, like when it comes to responsibility of the Council of Ministers, the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. It is very important that Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. Okay, so that's why, okay, when the Council of Ministers are not working, okay, properly, in that case, a no confidence motion can be moved and the government may be removed. Okay, so when it comes to making the cut motions, in this case also, the Lok Sabha has, greater power as compared to Rajya Sabha. In the third case also, Lok Sabha had greater power as compared to Rajya Sabha. So the thing is, correct answer for this particular question is option B. Okay, answer is B. And this was asked in UPSC CSE 2020. And the question is taken from set A. Okay, question number 2. It was in set A. Let us now move to the next question. And this particular question is about government schemes. Okay, it is about government schemes. Okay, so this question is with reference to MP LEDs. This question is with reference to MP LEDs scheme. What do we mean by MP LEDs scheme? MP LEDs stands for Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme. Okay, MP LEDs stands for Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme. Okay, so let us discuss about this particular scheme now. Okay, so when we talk about this particular scheme, what happens then? Like this particular MP LEDs scheme was formulated. Okay, it was formulated for the first time in 1993, and under this particular scheme, the members of parliament can recommend certain developmental work in their constituency, and for that purpose 5 crore rupees is okay, 5 crore rupees is granted, okay, is granted by the government of India to the district authority in a particular constituency where a member of parliament resides. Okay, so this 5 crore rupees is given in two installments, like of 2.5 crore each. Okay, 2.5 crore, 2.5 crore. So what happens here? The fund is given by the government of India to the district authority. Means it goes to the district collector or the district authority. Okay, it goes to the district authority. The fund directly do not go to the member of parliament. This is one thing. And apart from this, why this particular fund is given, why this 5 crore fund is given to every member of parliament, so that they can take up developmental issues in their constituency. And this is given specifically for creation of durable assets. Okay, for creation of durable assets in the constituency of the member of parliament. Okay, so the thing is, and if we talk about this MP LEDs scheme, under this MP LEDs scheme, there is a mandate for every MP that like out of the total funds, they should invest 15% of the funds for creation of infrastructure in those areas that are inhabited by scheduled caste. Okay, for the welfare of the scheduled caste people. So this 15% of 5 crore comes out to be 75 lakh rupees. Okay, so they should take up 75 lakhs of rupees, work in those areas that are inhabited, that are, where the population of scheduled caste resides. And at the same time, they should also invest, okay, 7.5% of the total amount in development of those areas that are inhabited by scheduled tribes people. And this amounts to 37.5 lakh rupees, okay, per year. This is another issue, okay. And apart from this, if we talk about, if in case that like, if in case that there is like, there is insufficient population of scheduled tribe in a constituency of the member of parliament, in that case what he should do, he should he should try to invest the same amount, okay, same amount in some other constituency where there is sufficient population of the scheduled tribe. If the scheduled tribe population is not there in that particular state, they should invest that amount for the development of durable assets in those areas that are inhabited by scheduled caste people. Okay, so this is the thing, and there the responsibility lies with the district authority for implementation and for overall supervision of this particular scheme. Okay, so the overall coordination and supervision lies with the district authority, and district authorities are given the mandate that they should inspect at least 10% of the work under the implementation every year, okay, under this particular scheme. So let us read these statements and we will try to answer this particular question. The first statement says that MP-led funds must be used to create durable assets like physical infrastructure for health, education, etc. Yes, this option is correct because I have already discussed that like, the fund should be used for the creation of durable assets. Okay, and second statement says a specified portion of each MP's fund must benefit the SC or ST population. Yes, I have discussed about, what portion of this particular fund must be utilized for the development of, development of durable assets in those areas that are inhabited by scheduled caste as well as scheduled tribes. So this statement is also right. Then third statement says that MP-led funds are sanctioned on yearly basis and the unused funds cannot be carried forward to to the next year. This is wrong because MP-led funds are non-lapsable. Okay, these funds are non-lapsable. It simply means that like funds, okay, funds that are issued in a particular year can be used for developmental work in subsequent years as well. They can be carried forward. Okay, so they do not lapse. So the thing is, third statement is incorrect. If we talk about the fourth statement, it says the district authority must inspect at least 10% of all works under implementation every year. Yes, this is the mandate on part of the district authority. So statements 1, 2 and 4 are correct. So option D is correct. Okay, option D is correct. So this particular question was asked in UPSC CAC 2020. Option D is correct. Now let us quickly move to the next question, which is third question in our series, and it was question number 4 in set A of UPSC CAC 2020. Let us discuss this question now. This question says, which one of the following categories of fundamental rights incorporates protection against untouchability as a form of discrimination? Okay, as you know that untouchability has been practiced in India in ancient times, and since the constitution came into being, okay, we have tried to reduce untouchability to the extent that is possible. So for this particular purpose, we have inserted an article in the Constitution of India, which is article number 17. Okay. So article number 17 has provisions regarding, okay, protection against untouchability as a form of discrimination. You know that untouchability is a form of discrimination and it is against equality. Okay, it is against equality. So Article 17 talks about this particular thing. And if we talk about, this particular question is about fundamental rights. You should be clear that fundamental rights, okay, when we talk about fundamental rights, the fundamental rights are mentioned in part 3 of the constitution. It is mentioned in part 3 of the constitution, and it is mentioned from article number 12 to article number 50, sorry, article number 12 to article number 35. Okay, article number 12 to 35 talks about fundamental rights. Okay, so article 12 talks about definition of a state. Article 13 talks about, those laws that may be inconsistent, uh, you know uh, that may be void because they are inconsistent with the fundamental rights. So article 13 talks about, judicial review. Then apart from this, article 14 to article 18 talks about, right to equality. Okay, right to equality. Okay, article 14 to 18 talks about right to equality. Okay, there are 6 categories of fundamental rights in the Constitution of India. One of the categories, right to equality. Okay, so article 17 is part of right to equality. So the thing is, correct answer for this question is D, which is right to equality. Okay, other options are not correct, but we are going to discuss, you know all categories of fundamental rights. So this is the first category of fundamental right from article 14 to 18. When we talk about second category of fundamental right, the second category of fundamental right is about right to freedom. Okay, it is about right to freedom. It is from article number 19 to 22. Okay, article number 19 to 22 talks about right to freedom. Okay, it talks about right to freedom. Then third category of fundamental right is from article number 23 to 24. This particular category is known as right against exploitation. Okay, right against exploitation. Okay, this is the third category. If we talk about fourth category of fundamental rights, this talks about right to freedom of religion. Okay, right to freedom of religion is mentioned from article number 25 to article number 28. Okay, this is right to freedom of religion. Okay, right to freedom of religion. Then the fifth category of fundamental rights is mentioned under article 29 to article number 30. This talks about cultural and educational rights. Okay, cultural and educational rights. Okay, educational rights. I'm directly writing. Okay, cultural and educational rights. Then sixth category of fundamental rights I'm writing over here. They talk about right to constitutional remedy. Okay, sixth category is right to constitutional remedy. Constitutional remedy. Okay, this is mentioned under article number 32 of the Constitution. And article 32 empowers the Supreme Court of India to issue writs. Okay, writs in the nature of habeas corpus, mandamus, quo warranto, certiorari. Okay, so there are 5 types of writs that are exercised by the Supreme Court of India under article 32 of the Constitution. Okay, so there are 6 categories of fundamental rights. The correct answer for this question is right to equality, which is option D. Okay, so option D is the correct answer. This question was asked in set A, question number 4, and it was asked in 2020. Now let us quickly move to the next question for the day. This question is about, okay, is about separation of judiciary from the executive. So let us read this question. In India, separation of judiciary from the executive is enjoined by, options are the preamble of the Constitution, option B, a directive principle of state policy, option C, the 7th schedule, and option D, the conventional practices. Okay, the conventional practices. So now let us discuss, okay, like what is the right answer for this particular question. Okay, so in India, separation of judiciary from the executive. So this particular thing is mentioned, okay, under the directive principles of state policy. There is a specific article which is known as article number 50. Okay, article 50 of the Constitution of India. this particular Article 50 of the Constitution of India actually has provisions. Okay, it has provisions related to separation of judiciary from the executive. And as you know, the directive principles of state policy. Okay, it is mentioned in Part 5 of Part 4. Sorry. Okay, it is mentioned in Part 4 of the Constitution of India, and they are mentioned from Article number 36 to 51. Okay, and Article 50 is part of the directive principles of state policy that categorically says that the state should strive to, separate the power of the judiciary from the executive. Okay, means like they should separate the judiciary from the executive. Okay, so this is the right answer. Means D is the right option for this particular thing. Okay, and this particular thing, I mean, like, this separation of judiciary from the executive is affected. Okay, by the CRPC. Okay, CRPC stands for Criminal Procedure Code of 1973. Okay, so this particular article has been given effect through this, Criminal Procedure Code of 1973. Okay, so option B is the right answer for this question. Okay, it was also asked in 2020. It was in set A of question paper. Now let us talk about the next question for the day. This is question number 5. So this question is, an intermix of polity as well as, economy. But the thing is, it is more towards polity. Why? We will discuss about it because they are talking about the articles of the Constitution of India. Okay, let us read this question. This question has, a statement. The first part of the question is a statement. We need to understand this particular statement, and after understanding this statement, we have to answer the question that is asked. Okay, so they are saying that along with the budget, the finance minister also places other documents before the parliament, which includes the macroeconomic framework statement. The up, okay, so they are saying that budget is presented by the finance minister, but along with the budget, the finance minister also places the macroeconomic framework statement. Okay, so they are asking the aforesaid document is presented because this is mandated by. Options are long-standing parliamentary convention, the Article 112 and Article 110 Clause 1 of the Constitution of India, Article 113 of the Constitution of India, provisions of Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003. Okay, this is in short known as FRBM Act. FRBM Act. Okay, of 2003. Okay, FRBM stands for Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. Option D is correct for this particular question because like it is mandated under this particular act that along with the presentation of budget is also known as annual financial statement. Okay, so during the presentation of budget, the finance minister should also present the macroeconomic framework statement. Option D is correct. Let us talk about why it is other options are not correct because like option A says it is a long-standing parliamentary convention. So it is not a long-standing parliamentary convention. Why? Because like this has been mandated under the FRBM Act of 2003. So like it has come into effect after this FRBM Act. Option B, it talks about Article 112. Article 112 talks about like what is a budget. It talks about that budget is an annual financial statement. Okay, Article 112 talks about that budget is an annual financial statement of the government of India. Then what is Article 110 Clause 1? Article 110 Clause 1 talks about money bill. It defines what is a money bill. Okay, it defines what is a money bill. So the thing is option B is not correct. Option A is not correct. Let us talk about what is Article 113. Okay, so Article 113 talks about demand for grants. Okay, it talks about demand for grants. So that's why Article 113 is also not correct. Okay. So along with this particular thing, FRBM Act also mandates other thing as well. It mandates three specific things. One is known as medium term fiscal policy statement. Okay. FRBM mandates that like medium term fiscal policy statement, fiscal policy statement. Okay, medium term fiscal policy statement must be issued. And apart from this, fiscal policy strategy statement. Okay, fiscal policy strategy statement. Okay, then it talks about another thing which is known as macroeconomic. Okay, macroeconomic. Okay, framework policy statement. Macroeconomic framework policy statement. Okay, framework policy statement. Okay, so this is the thing. So this FRBM Act mandates that along with budget and demand for grants, the finance minister should also place, you know, before the parliament these three documents. One is medium term fiscal policy statement, then fiscal policy strategy statement, and macroeconomic framework policy statement. So like this third part is it is what it is mentioned over here. Okay, so D is the right answer for this particular question. Okay, so this was also asked in UPSC CSE 2020. So that's all that I had to discuss with you for the day. Thank you so much for attending this session. I hope you have a great day ahead.